Hi, welcome back to Adult Makers. This month we're going to be making some wire rings, and you should have a little kit like this with 5 wires and I think 6 beads in it. We did not provide you with pliers. You will need some needle nose pliers. We do have a few available for checkout if you don't have them, but if you have them at home, feel free to just use your own. You'll also need, and we didn't mention this, something about as big as your finger. Ideally, we would have ring mandrels for each of you, nice iron things that are graduated so you can see what your size is and work on that. Budget does not account for that. So I have used Sharpies, I've used a little bottle of lotion. I'm going to be working today, I think, with a marker. Anyway, go find something that's just a little bit bigger than your finger. You want it slightly larger because once we take it off and tighten it up and do the finishing, it will tighten up and become just a little bit smaller. So here we have the contents of your package. 2 silver wires, 2 gold wires, 1 copper wire, 3 beads. There will be either kind of a turquoise blue one or a gold one that's got a crackled center that's kind of fun. There will be a large pearl. There's a metal one, and then you'll have 3 tiny beads. They may be colored ones like this, they may be little metal ones. It just kind of varies according to your kit. And if you have beads at home that you would like to substitute for these or add to them, please feel free. Okay, I'm going to start with the simplest thing we can do here. Actually, I should preface this. I'm going to show you 2 types of wire rings that are really basic, and then show you a few themes and variations that you can kind of play with. So I'm going to try to get rid of those without having them roll away. Ooh, one of them already did. And I'm going to work with some silver because I haven't before. So get out your piece of wire, silver wire, and very simple, we're going to wrap it around and wrap it around. So you've got 2 wraps on the back, and they'll be meeting, the ends will be meeting in front. Then we're just going to twist. And you might be able to just do this with your fingers at this point. Twist, and twist, and twist, and twist. I think you can kind of guess what I'm going to say next. I'm going to twist and twist. So we're making a spiral in the center of the ring here. And how big it is kind of depends on how much wire you have and how big you want it to be. So I'm just going to take it around once more. We've got a pretty good sized spiral. Then I'm going to take those pliers that have a little wire cutter in them. I'm going to take it off. Oops. Didn't plan that well, did I? It won't go that way. We're going to take it off the marker to finish things up. Okay, I'm going to snip those really close. Then I'm going to go in and do just a small little kink on the end, like that. And we'll do that on the other side. Small little kink on the end going up. Then we're going to take that, grab it with your pliers, bring it underneath the ring, and press it up. Then we'll do it on the other side. grab it, take it underneath, that one's not cooperating as well, and press it up. Now take your finger, make sure those edges are pointed up into the ring and not down into your finger. It's important if you want to wear this that it's not going to be painful. So make sure nothing's sticking out that's going to hurt. You might want to take your pliers and kind of flatten this, solidify it a little bit, and you've got a ring, which almost fits my finger. That was a good guess. Okay, this is really, really basic. As I said, there are a lot of variations you could do. For example, that's in this gold one, I did exactly the same thing. I just made it kind of a little bit looser and more squiggly. And that's certainly something you could do. You could make it pretty elaborate. A little note here on the type of wire we're using. This is a 20 gauge wire. That indicates how thick it is. I tried doing some other types of rings with this wire, like these, like these, like these. And I found that the wire just wasn't good for it. I started this and it's a little too thin. It doesn't hold its shape well. So if you want to do something like this, they don't seem to be terribly complicated, but I think you're going to want a fatter wire. I would say at least 18 gauge, maybe 16. The number of the wire indicates the size, and the larger the number, the smaller the wire is. So 20 gauge is kind of middle. Fatter wire is going to be 18, 16. If you want something thinner, it's going to be 22, 24. And you might want a smaller wire with those larger numbers if you try something like this, which I also tried making some Celtic knots. But it was a little difficult for me to get those knots and braiding done with this thick of a wire. So you might want something smaller if you try something like that. Like I say, we're just getting you started here, just giving you some ideas to get you going. But those are some things you might want to try if you want to go get some larger or smaller wire. Okay, our other basic ring we're going to do, oops, is this, and this one will be done with a bead. Which bead is up to you. I kind of like those crackly ones, those sparkly ones, so I'm going to go with that. And for this, you're going to start by putting the bead on the wire. It's the first thing you do. Pretty easy. Then again, you're going to take something, I think this is about the same size as my marker, we'll find out. Kind of a side note here, I did try doing one on my largest finger, hoping that it would fit my ring finger, and it worked very well as far as sizing went, but I had to do all the working with one hand and it made it kind of sloppy. So, I don't know, you might want to try that, you might not. Okay, here we are. We have gone, put the bead on, put it on our sizer, whatever that may be, and we're going to wrap it around the bottom on both sides. So again, we've got two thicknesses on the bottom, and they're going to come up to the top again, and we're going to do our finish work. Lots of different ways we can do this, but I'm going to show you the most basic, and then we'll go from there. So for this, it's around both sides, and again, we're going to wrap. And we're going to wrap. Oops, I'm kind of losing hold of things. Might want to make that a little bit tighter. Okay. And I'm just going to wrap this around twice, I think. And do the finishing off. Came off easier. we'll want to squeeze those wires together a little bit. And I'm just going to give a little squeeze there and there to keep things together. Okay, now you're going to take the pliers, go underneath your ring wires on the opposite side. Here. Tighten it up. And we're going to go around a couple of times here. Oop, I've got it going on the wrong side of the wire. Let's get it adjusted a little bit. Tighten it up. There we go. It looks a little better that way. And I'm going to go around one more time. Everything is in the meantime getting all scrunched out. We'll have to go back and fix it a little bit when we get done. Oops, come on. All right. Getting rid of the ends is a little more problematic with this type of a finish. We want to bend it in, but really give that thing a feel. Make sure it's not poking out anywhere. It's not poking up, it's not poking down. That feels pretty good. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. Come on. Some of it you can actually do with your fingers, some of it you'll need pliers. Okay. And this end was just a little bit longer, so I'm going to go in and snip off a little bit. Get it as close as I can. And then try to flatten that in. That's sticking up quite a bit. That's going to be painful and snag a sweater or something. Make sure you don't have that happen. Okay. I'm gonna flatten the sides a little bit. Give it a little more distinct shape. And we've got a ring. Okay, now here are some variations you might do with that. This is exactly the same thing, except instead of wrapping it around, I kind of did those wraps a little more loosely, a little more squiggly, so it gave it a very different look, I think, a very different feel. This is the same thing. This was a bead I had at home, but I wrapped it around. Since it was flat and I didn't want it spinning, I did the wrapping, kind of let it go underneath so it would hold it securely flat. Here is another variation. I did this with 3 little beads, and rather than wrapping and wrapping, I just took the wire, took it to the other side, and finished it off. And I did that on both sides, and it made a little casing for the 3 beads. Similar thing here, but the beads are different sizes, gives it a different look. This one, I had a large and 2 small beads, and when I had the wire, I brought it around the center bead and back and finished it. And the same thing on the other side. Went it around the center bead and back and finished it. And then this one looks almost the same, except it's not. It's again that wire wrap of the bead, but instead of the twist around each side of the finger wire, I gave it that little notch and turned it up underneath to finish it off. I have seen rings that, you know, really build this up so it's a huge mass with a little bead in the middle. Variations with having 2 beads or weaving around them. The possibilities really are endless. So right now you've got the basics for 2 rings. You've got some beads for, 3 or 4 rings at least. And you've got a whole bunch of possibilities that I hope you'll play with, experiment with, give yourself some finger bling, and have fun.